God. So, welcome again. We dedicate this presentation to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, we can begin with the Guru Pranam and Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanaha Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padahan Sahadana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Shrato Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvaswa Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohana Divyad Vrindaranyo Kalpa Drumadaha Srimat Ratnagara Simhasanosto Srimat Radha Sri Lagovinda Devo Prashtali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivatastatastitaha Karshan Venur Svanair Gopir Gopinata Shristuna Apta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachaharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Narayanam Namaskrityam Narum Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Vidiraye. Before reciting this Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nastaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavatir naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakалпатароргалитам phalam sukhamukaram ritadrava samyutam vivata bhagavatam rasam malayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamanine Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangri Twai me Ananda Vishaya Matir Madhupati Asakrit Ratim Udvahatat Ada Gange Baugam Udanvati. O Madhupate, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vignamina Namine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaitim Girim Yatkrupa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatharinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Tatsat. So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to our Srimad Bhagavatam session. So today we are going on to new chapter, chapter 11. But before that, it will be helpful to have a bird's eye view of what we have been discussing for the past several, maybe a few months. So we can, recapping from chapter 10, we heard about how Lord Krishna left Hastinapur. So the narration was like this, the sages in the Naimisaranya forest, they were all asking questions to Sutta Goswami. And the questions they were asking, the 6 questions they were asking, and one of it was they wanted to know who is the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj. They know, of course, it's Parikshit, sorry, not speaker, the listener. They know that Parikshit Maharaj heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, but they wanted to know more about him, describe his qualities. And they also asked who is the speaker. So that is what do you call Sukadev Goswami, the original speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. So they wanted to know about both speaker and the listener. And at the same time, they wanted to know what is the best thing that can be done by the people in general now that Lord Krishna has left. So that is the answer to that. So then before I give the answer, so then they asked another question. Please describe the beautiful pastimes of the Lord, right? Please describe his avatars, how he manifests his avatars for the purpose of creation, for the purpose of pastimes. So like this. And finally, the last question was, now that Krishna has left, where will dharma and where will basically dharma, religiosity, morality, and where will the devotees take shelter? So therefore, the answer to all of that essentially is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the answer to all the questions. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear wonderful narrations about Krishna and his pastimes. So chapter 3, we heard about Krishna's various incarnations. And then in chapter 4, we heard about a little bit about how the history of Srimad Bhagavatam came. We heard about the speaker, Sukadev Goswami. And we heard a little bit about, very little about Parikshit Maharaj. More we heard about Sukadev Goswami. And then we also heard about how Bhagavatam is the answer to the problem for all the people in general, where they can take shelter. What is the all best thing that can be done now? The best thing that can be done is for people to take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy names of the Lord. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is full description about the holy names of the Lord and the pastimes of the Lord, which are all non-different. And we can all take shelter. So in this way, we heard about, so as the narration was going about, there is a little bit of, all the questions are answered at different levels. First, they are all answered in a very brief way. And then each of the questions are described a little bit further, one by one. And then third level, again, they described a little bit more further. And then like that, level by level, each of the questions are answered. First level answer for all the questions, very brief. Second level answer for all the questions, a little bit more deeper. Then third level answer for all the questions, even more deeper. So like that, the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is about level after level of questions, which give answers deeper and deeper and deeper to these 6 questions. So in this way, we heard about how Krishna, because one of the questions was they wanted to hear about the pastimes of Krishna. So we heard about how Lord Krishna came with Arjuna. The first pastime which was described about was Krishna's friendship with Arjuna. How Arjuna, when Uttara, the wife of Abhimanyu, the dead son of Arjuna, was being attacked by the Brahmastra sent by Ashwatthama, and how Lord Krishna immediately acted to save the child, and and then Arjuna wanted to go and capture Ashwatthama. So how Lord Krishna came with Arjuna. So we heard about the beautiful relationship of friendship between Krishna and Arjuna, how Krishna was always with Arjuna, and Krishna and Arjuna was together. In this way, they were apprehending Ashwatthama. And then after that, right after that, they went back to Hastinapur, and we heard about Queen Kunti's beautiful prayers. So they were all very grateful to Krishna, and Krishna stayed with them for several months, and eventually he was about to leave for Dwaraka. And at that time, Kunti approached him and offered her beautiful, famous prayers. And right after that, Krishna left Hastinapur. We heard about all that. So chapter 10 was the departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. So here, these were the topics that we covered. Yudhishthira Maharaja's reign, description was given about the kingdom and the reign of Yudhishthira Maharaj, how wonderful his kingdom was. And then we heard about Krishna taking his leave. And then we heard the gossip of the ladies of Hastinapur, the Kuru Narya, the ladies of Kuru and their Sanjalpa or their gossip. And finally, we heard about Krishna departing. So in all of this entire chapter was a very beautiful presentation of the Vedic culture and etiquette of the various people. So it's important we also understand these things, because these are the etiquette of the spiritual world. So when we hear about the beautiful relationship between the devotees and the Lord, it is very fulfilling to the heart, because we get to see more deeper about the personality of this Supreme Personality of Godhead. What kind of a beautiful master that he is. So Vedic culture and etiquette we hear so that we can understand what's correct behavior, what is the correct standard of etiquette, right? Culture. And we also heard about the sweet reciprocation between the Lord and his devotees. So this is basically Krishna taking his leave, how he took his leave, how they went and waited for him to leave, and the wonderful prayers that they offered. And we heard about how Yudhishthira Maharaj came with him almost a few kilometers outside the palace together with his army, just as a sign of respect. So all of this, departure of a guest, we heard about this. And no description of Lord Krishna's pastime is complete without a wonderful description of Krishna's Nama, Guna, Rupa, and Leela. So we heard various names of the Lord, various qualities of the Lord, his beautiful form, the description of his beautiful form, and his relationship pastimes. And then we heard about his journey, and briefly he reached Dwaraka. In chapter 11, we covered chapter 11, how Krishna was received into Dwaraka. So here also, it was a lot of description about Vedic culture, right? What is the correct culture when announcing once Krishna blew his conch shell, and then how the citizens came and received him by offering him words of welcome, prayers, presentations of gifts, right? And how they had pretty much a festival in the streets just to welcome him, like a Radha Yatra. So Vedic culture, we heard about it. And we also heard about the wonderful reciprocation again, the beautiful reciprocation between how the Lord reciprocated with each and every one of those people who came and received him. The citizens, down from the kings and the family members, from the mothers and the queens, all the way down to the cobblers and the street people, and even the prostitutes who were staying in Dwaraka. So in this way, the Lord reciprocated with each and every one, irrespective of what their caste or creed. He was simply reciprocating to their the feeling of devotion, bhakti. And again, we also heard more descriptions about Krishna's names. Various names were presented, his forms, his qualities, and his pastimes. So we heard about all these things. And so this was basically one level of answer to the question of Krishna's pastimes and qualities. So now they want to, Sanaka Rishi now wants to move again to the other questions. So going back to Parikshit Maharaj, because they also wanted to hear about how Parikshit Maharaj, the person who heard, who perfected his life by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, they wanted to know more about him. So going back to that story, that story started off with, Uttara being attacked by the Brahmastra, which was begun earlier in the chapters, which I mentioned. So it stopped off over there and continued about the descriptions of Krishna. Now we go back to Parikshit again, Uttara and Parikshit. So Saunaka Rishi speaks, Saunaka Uvacha, the womb of Uttara was spoiled by the Uru Tejasha. Uru means very, very fearful burning. Uru means it's like burning, high temperature. Tejasa is the glaring effulgence. The effulgence of the Brahmastra, which was sent by Ashwatthama to kill the last heir of the Pandava dynasty, the Kuru dynasty. So when he released this Brahmastra, we heard that description earlier chapters, how it was like going to, it was an unchecked Brahmastra. And it was like shaking the universe. And the effulgence, the glare of the effulgence of that weapon, the Uru Tejasa of the dreadful and invincible Brahma Sirshna, this is basically, it means invincible weapon of, which is the Brahmastra, released by Ashwatthama. So the womb of Uttara was spoiled by this weapon. But the baby, the fetus inside the womb, but by the name, at that time he wasn't called Parikshit yet, but he was just a baby, a fetus. But Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Supreme Lord, who is known as Ishena. That means the one who is the controller of everything. So here it means he's also the controller of the Brahmastra. He's also the controller of the life and death of living entities. So in this way, he exerted his control and protected the baby inside the womb because of the prayer of Uttara, and also because the child is a very special child about to be born. So that is section 40 today. We are covering part 1, continuing with the verse. How was the great Emperor Parikshit? So they continued asking the questions. Saunaka Rishi, representing all the other sages in Naimisaranya forest, was putting these questions, the same questions only, the same 6 questions. He's putting deeper and deeper levels to those questions. So he's asking Sutta Goswami, how was the great Emperor Parikshit, who was a Mahabuddhehe? Mahabuddhehe means one who's greatly intelligent. Buddhi means intelligent. Mahabuddhi. How was the great Emperor Parikshit, who was greatly intelligent, and Maha-Atmana, great devotee? It's a great personality. Maha-Atma. Of course, so we have, Mahatma Gandhi, like that. So, but actually the word Mahatma or Mahajan is reserved for those who are of a very high spiritual perfection, namely in devotional service. So Mahatma, so it's the birth of a Mahatmana, just like Prahlad Maharaj, right? Who was about to be born to Hiranyakashipu's wife. So in this way, Parikshit Maharaj is going to be born. So how was the great emperor, who was a most intelligent person and a great soul, born in that womb? Because that womb was spoiled by the Brahmastra. How did his death take place? So they wanted to know about his birth, and they wanted to know about his death also. So what is significant in a person's life? The birth, the death, right? And of course, what happens in between. So in other words, birth, death, and all that happens in between. They want to know the significant moments. And like pure transcendentalist, materialist, they will only stop at this point. That's it. No other question asked. But spiritualists, they are interested in what happens after death. So then they ask this next question: what did he achieve after his death? So we will hear all this in Srimad Bhagavatam. We are all very respectfully want to hear about him. So here we again hear the etiquette. So this is the right way or the right mood in which one should hear spiritual knowledge. If you simply hear it without this attitude of respectfully. So the word here is called Shraddha Adananam. The word Shraddha denotes faith. So one has to invest one's faith and on a plate of respect. So one takes one's faith and puts it on a plate of respect and offers it to the speaker. So that is how we should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all these scriptures. Then the message will go straight. So if we have this attitude, but of course it's important that the speaker is also very pure. So similarly, the listener should be sincere and the speaker should also be sincere. So in this way, Prabhupada describes one should hear from the Mahajans and those who repeat the message of the Mahajans as it is. So we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's message. Srila Prabhupada, we like to, repeat Srila Prabhupada's message and what the Acharyas have described. So in this way, we act as a postman to bring you that pure knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. So we all very respectfully want to hear about him, to whom Sukadev Goswami imparted jnanam, or transcendental spiritual knowledge. So that's the way to correctly hear. Please speak on this matter. So they respectfully ask him to continue deeper, give a deeper meaning to the answers. Earlier he gave a brief answer. Now they are asking to give deeper answers. They want to hear more about Parikshit Maharaj's birth, his activities and his death, and the destination after death. So Prabhupada gives some purport here. Because the age of Kali, the first sign of misgivings was exhibited in the cursing of such a greatly intelligent and devoted king as Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj Parikshit's story is very interesting because though he is a greatly intelligent person and a greatly Mahat Atmanaha, but the story is he was cursed. And what more, he was cursed not by a demon, not by a Rakshasa, not by a, he was cursed by a Brahmana. So how did that happen? So why? So all this, there is a reason behind it. So actually, this entire pastime was orchestrated by the Lord, Daiva Tantiram. It was planned by the Lord in such a way because otherwise Kali Yuga cannot take place. Because Maharaj Parikshit was such a powerful personality. Lord Krishna has left. Kali Yuga was supposed to start the moment Krishna left. But still it didn't start, couldn't start because great personalities like the Pandavas were there. Then they also left, but still Kali Yuga couldn't start because Parikshit Maharaj was there. They enthroned Parikshit Maharaj before Yudhishthira Maharaj left for the mountains. And because Parikshit Maharaj was there, it couldn't start. So something had to happen. And by means of Daiva Tantiram, Yoga Maya potency, and a Leela was arranged in which this cursing happened. So, this is the boy Shringi. That also someone from a boy. A Brahmana boy, Shringi, cursed Parikshit Maharaj. We'll hear about this towards the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically about the curse in Canto 1 itself. We will hear more about the curse in the later chapters. So actually, the age of Kali started because an immature Brahmana misused his power by cursing a righteous Mahatma king. So that was the problem. Out of his pride. So the cause of Kali Yuga began with pride. Pride was the fall down. So due to pride, the boy cursed Maharaj Parikshit, not realizing that such a king, because he was the king of the world. So by cursing the king of the world to die in 7 days, he deprived the world of a righteous ruler. right at the brink of Kali Yuga about to come. So that was the worst thing. It's like shooting yourself on the foot. Kali Yuga is right at the door, and you shoot the guard keeper who keeps the door closed. So that's what happened. So Prabhupada says it began with the cursing of a greatly intelligent person. So the first symptom of the age of Kali, because it started with the Brahmana cursing, it is due to the degradation of the Brahmana. So due to pride, the highly talented Brahmana community fell to the folly of pride, yeah, and became degraded. So that's the problem. And in this way, Maharaj Parikshit, however, was saved by the Lord in the womb. In the womb, he was saved. Why couldn't the Lord save him at death? This the irony, in the womb, before he was born, the Lord personally came to save him from the greatest danger in the universe, a Brahmastra, just like that, and he was saved. But from a mere curse of a immature Brahmana boy, that the Lord didn't act. So we will hear about the dichotomy of that, why that happens in the later chapter. So it's a very interesting story. So Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Lord in the womb of his mother. So he could certainly be saved from an untimely death due to the ill will of a son of a Brahmana. However, the Lord didn't intervene because there was a plan behind this. As I said, the plan was because the Lord wanted Maharaj Parikshit to quickly come back to him. That's one reason. Because he was a great devotee, the Lord was missing him very much. And secondly, Parikshit Maharaj had to leave so that Kali Yuga can begin on schedule. And thirdly, because Parikshit Maharaj himself never asked the Lord to save him. So he accepted that this is the plan of the Lord and he complied. Even without the help of the Lord, he had sufficient power to counteract the curse himself, but he didn't, right? So even in the face of death, he was still towards the end also, he was compliant to the Lord's plan. He didn't want to go against the Lord's plan, even if it meant his own death. So this is the type of personality Maharaj Parikshit is. So Prabhupada says, a pure devotee never asks for the Lord for any undue favor unnecessarily. Because the idea is we are the servant of the Lord. This is pure devotion. In mixed bhakti, in mixed devotion, the bhakta will ask the Lord. They will ask, I want this, I want that, I want that. It is still good, better than karma kanda, better than praying to the devatas. Directly one prays to the spirit, to the Supreme Lord, one gets purified on top of whatever one is asking. But when one asks for material things, though it is good, but it is not pure devotion. It is mixed devotion. So if one wants to come to the level of pure devotion, then one has to adopt this kind of mentality of being purely the servant of the Lord. I am the servant. The Lord should not serve me. He's already doing so many things for me. I should serve him. Why should we have this kind of mentality? Because to someone who has this kind of mood, the Lord gives himself completely to them. Just like how Mother Yashoda could tie Krishna, and how the gopis could control Krishna. So in this way, the pure devotee can control the Supreme Lord. So the Lord gives himself to them. There's nothing he can give, because since they don't ask for anything, there's nothing Krishna can give other than himself. So that is the power of pure devotion. So Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Purana. It is basically, it's not mixed with karma, it's not mixed with jnana, it is pure bhakti. So simply by hearing, even if we do not have that quality in our heart, simply by hearing, it will purify our heart and we will develop attraction. And in this way, we will also come to that point by the time we complete all cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Prabhupada promises right? As we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we will begin to see Krishna on the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And at the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, we will develop pure devotional service. So Maharaj Parikshit knew that the curse of the Brahmana's son upon him was unjustified, as everyone else knew, but he did not want to counteract it. So this was the fate awaiting Maharaj Parikshit. The curse was a snake bird, Takshaka. This is a flying snake, would come and bite him, and the poison will be so terrible that his body will burst into flames, and in this way he will die within 7 days of the curse. But he didn't counteract it. He just accepted it. Why? Right? Why did he just not counteract it with his power? He could stop Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga couldn't enter because of him. But so one thing also, he wanted to keep the word of the Brahmana. Although the Brahmana broke his vow of austerity and embraced pride and uttered this curse, still Parikshit Maharaj did not want to force the Brahmana's word to go false. Because one of the qualities of Brahmana is Satyam. Satyam means truth. So if a Brahmana utters something, then it has to come true. So if he is cursed to die, then it must come true. So rather than to counteract the Brahmana's word and make the Satyam become Asatyam by his own power, he decided to accept it. He did not want to interfere with the current of the time, right? So as I mentioned, he understood the deeper meaning behind it, but he prepared himself to meet death very cheerfully and very properly. So that is what we will hear in the later chapters of this canto. Very nice. How to prepare towards death. Parikshit Maharaj exemplified that. So Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami, Prabhupada says, were serious performers of the first two important items of bhakti. You know, in bhakti, there are 9 processes of bhakti, beginning with Shravanam, then Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Pujyam or Archanam, and Vandanam, prayers, and then Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So these are the 9 processes of devotional service. It begins with Shravanam and it carries throughout the other 9 stages. Shravanam is always there. And Shravanam, hearing, will lead to chanting. So in chanting, there is hearing and chanting. And that also carries throughout all other 8 processes. So these are the most important processes. Shravanam and hearing, both important, most important. Especially for people who are beginning. And therefore, both of them exemplified. So Sukadev Goswami exemplified Kirtanam, glorifying the words and the pastimes and the names of the Lord. And Parikshit Maharaj exemplified Shravanam, hearing attentively for 7 days and 7 nights, without sleeping, without eating, right at the brink of death, Srimad Bhagavatam, with full attention and enthusiasm, and with respect, and with devotion and faith. So therefore, both of them were very successful in their laudable attempt. So transcendental realization is attained by such serious hearing and chanting and not otherwise. So that's why it's very important for us to focus on this. Prabhupada created all this program for us, the program of association, because in the association only we can do this process of hearing and chanting. So Prabhupada gave us his books. He gave us the Sunday feast. He gave us the morning program, the evening program. All the lectures are there, books are there. So in this way, we can practice. Ardent hearing from the bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge. So we should hear from pure devotees as much as possible. We should hear from the Guru's mouth. So, we should try to identify those devotees who are serious in their spiritual life, who practice pure devotional service, especially from gurus and, Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So in this way, we hear from Parampara. We should avoid hearing from outside sources, which is not coming from Parampara, because they will confuse our fledgling limited knowledge, and it will make it a big problem for, if we fill up our heart with rubbish, then there is no room for pure things. So we have to hear from the right source. And there is no need for medical performances or occult mysticism for miraculous effects. So, there's no need for, I'm spiritual. People have the wrong idea that a spiritualist means he can perform miracles like walk on water or change something into another thing, or, that kind of thing. So that is all secondary. It may be there by Krishna's will, but that is nothing. That is material. It's not spiritual, actually. So the process is simple, but only the sincere party can achieve the desired result. So Prabhupada warns us against hearing from the wrong side, wrong type of people. So Prabhupada says there is a type of spiritual master and disciple much advertised in this age of Kali. So what is that? It is said that the master injects spiritual force into the disciple by an electrical current generated by the master, and the disciple begins to feel the shock. So he is basically talking about, there was one, person in India, a famous person also previously, who claimed, he passed whatever knowledge that he had, whatever power, Shakti that he had, he gave it to the next person who was going to go to America to preach to the public. So, and then therefore he touched him and electricity like that. And then after that, he said, oh, okay, now I've lost all my tejas, it's gone. So Prabhupada says it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. So here I'm putting a picture of Star Wars. So here is, they touch and then the electricity. So this is all bogus. So then Prabhupada continues, after touching that disciple and discharging the electrical current of his power into the disciple, he becomes unconscious and the master weeps for his exhausting his store of so-called spiritual assets. So he's actually referring to a person. I won't name that person here, but he's a famous personality, the guru of another person who went to America uh, in the 60s or something like that. And anyway, but he was a Mayavadi. So anyway, that is something which is not supported by Bhagavatam, right? It doesn't work like that. It works like how Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami, that is the way of guru-disciple relationship as described in scripture. So such bogus advertisement is going on in this age, and the poor common man or woman is becoming the victim of such advertisement. So the problem is we don't know what is real spirituality. And Prabhupada says this world is full of the cheater and the cheated. So there is only two types of people here, the cheater or the cheated. So either we are cheating somebody else or we become cheated. So that's the problem. So we should learn to understand, we should scrutinize very carefully, right? So the scams and all that is nothing new. It's been there going on. People who scam people spiritually for money, for wealth. So many scandals happen, fall downs happen, embarrassing, gives a bad name to. And because of all this, other people who have very little faith, when they see all these bad things happening, they decide, oh, all religion is bogus. There's no real such thing as real religion. Everybody who claims to be religion are all, they're all cheaters at heart only. And then they also lose what little faith they had in religiosity, and then they become atheist. So that's the problem. But just because the eye doesn't function properly, it doesn't mean that one should take out one's eye, right? One should put medicine to that eye. One should go to the doctor and then get the eye treated, right? One doesn't remove one's eye if eye got pain, right? So in the same way, one doesn't throw away our faith in God just because a few people abuse. Not a few, unfortunately, majority of them abuse. But it's there. So continue, verse Sutta Goswami Uvacha continues. Dharmaraja, who's Dharmaraja? Dharmaraja is Yudhishthira Maharaj. He is called Dharmaraja because his father is Dharmaraja. And he is just like his father. There it says here. Dharmaraja administered generously to everyone, Praja, during his reign. He was exactly like his father. Who is his father? Yamaraj. Yamaraj is Dharmaraja. And just like his father, Yudhishthira Maharaj is also Dharmaraja. And he was perfect in his administration, just like Ram. So in this way, and what was wonderful about his reign, he was generous to everyone, and everyone here means Praja. Praja means those who have taken birth in this world. And that is not only human beings, all living entities, he was fair to them. He was gracious to them. So thus Praja is used in a broader sense than it is now used. Every living being, aquatics, plants, trees, reptiles, birds, animals, is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So accordingly, the correct treatment and the correct generosity is given. How do you give generosity to an animal? You don't put the animal in a palace and give the animal royal gulab jamuns and things like that. No, the correct way to give proper treatment, proper generosity to an animal is to take care of it, give sufficient love, put it in a barn, give it the type of food which the animal is used to, right? So in the same way, one has to know what is the correct way to be generous to different types of people. Because if you're generous, let's say we are very generous, and I give my pet, after I die, I leave all my money to my pet. There are people who do that in this world. Oh, there's some millionaire who left all his money to his cat. Can you imagine? So like that. So we should know where proper generosity is to be given in the correct way. So how do we know this? From scripture, not from our own mental concoction. So thus praja is used in this way, right? And the king, being the representative of the Supreme Lord, is duty bound to give proper protection to every one of them. So that's the duty of a king or a leader. So a king gives protection, he's duty bound to give. So that's the number one purpose of a king or a protector. Not to, of course, kings have other duties. They need to ensure economic prosperity. They need to ensure so many other things as well. But the number one priority of a king or a leader is to give protection. If one fails to give protection at the right time, it can be anybody. It can be a king, it can be a temple president, it can be a GBC, it can be a politician, it can be a teacher to his students, it can be a parent to his children. That's number one first duty, to give protection. And protection means not only from physical threats, it also means protection from one's own mind and senses. That is protection also. Because don't we protect the child from bad association, bad habits? When the child says, I want to eat chocolate for lunch, breakfast, and dinner, do we say yes? No. We say no. Why? For his protection. So therefore, with protection also comes some amount of control. So that doesn't mean that one is a control freak, oh, you're not giving freedom. So no, due protection comes with due control also. So in this way, that is described. So he had no personal ambition. So that's another important point of a leader. We don't want to put ambitious people in positions of leadership, because what will happen? When you put an ambitious person in a position of leadership, he will try to use that position to serve his ambition. And when that happens, people under his leadership may become casualties if the person is not principled. And even if the person is principled, eventually the degradation will happen, right? Just like you don't put a snake to give protection to a chicken, right? You don't say the snake is protecting my chicken. So that is dangerous. So we don't want to have people with ambition to protect for their own name. What is ambition? Ambition for their own material ambitions. Ambition for name, fame, glory, right? So that should not be, because then they will misuse it. It will become a problem. So one of the qualifications of Yudhishthira Maharaj, he had no personal ambition. Nishprahaha. So it's mentioned in one story I heard that at one point of time, Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked, he was asked by Draupadi, and she told him, look at Duryodhana. Duryodhana doesn't follow dharma, and he is rich, he's wonderful, he's having his kingdom, everybody is supporting him, he's protected. And look at us, you are following dharma so much that you are now in the forest, that we have nothing to eat much actually, other than the whatever we get from the Akshaya Patra. So what is the point of you following dharma? So then Yudhishthira Maharaj gave a wonderful answer. He said, I follow dharma not because I want something out of it. So that's the point. We don't follow dharma because we want to get something out of it. Then it becomes karma kanda. We follow dharma because there are two reasons spiritual people follow dharma. Those who are spiritually advanced, they follow dharma because number one, it is for the sake of doing the duty, because it's based on scripture. They cannot go against scripture. So because scripture said so, right? So I should do it. But the pure devotees of the Lord follow dharma because it pleases the Lord. That's the point. By following dharma, because who gave the dharma? The Lord created all the dharma. And by following the rules and regulations set by the Lord becomes pleased. So that's why Rupa Goswami, there was a conversation between Ramananda Raya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the first quotation by Ramananda Raya to Mahaprabhu about when Mahaprabhu asked him, please tell me something about the goal of life. So the first thing he said was that the purpose of Varna Ashram is to please Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is what Varnashram is meant for, to please Vishnu. So that is the purpose. So how is it that he became ambitionless? How is it that he had no ambition, no material personal ambitions? Nisprahaha, that's the word. Nishprahaha means no material ambitions. How did he come to this level? The answer is because of his Krishna Padanusevaya, because of devotional service, because of pure bhakti. So that's what pure devotional service does for us. It takes away the burning hankering of ambition in our heart. We become peaceful. We become shanti, peaceful, and we become tushti, satisfied, right? Not because there's nothing in our heart, because we cannot throw away something in our heart and leave our heart empty. It doesn't work that way. It will be artificial. After some time, something will come and fill it up again. So because the heart is so full with the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, Padanusepaya, when the heart is full of pure bhakti, there is no other space for any material things to come in. It's like a cup. A cup is full of water. You cannot put anything else on top of it, right? Then it's just full. So like that. Or when your stomach is full, so full, when your stomach is so full with prasadam, even if somebody gives you something which is unedible, something which is like meat or whatever, you don't want to eat it because your stomach is full of prasadam. So that's the mercy of the Lord. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Sarira Vidyaja Jodendra Tahikal. So the Lord is so merciful that he has kindly given us this prasadam just to help us conquer our tongue and our belly. So yeah, so therefore that's the point. So we in spiritual life, in Bhakti Yoga, we don't artificially try to make the heart and the mind empty. We replace our empty heart by putting in bhakti, a higher taste. So Maharaj Yudhishthira had a wonderful higher taste because he was so addicted to this higher taste of Krishna Padanusevaya. Pada means feet, Krishna's feet, Sevaya, Anusevaya. Anusevaya means continuous devotional service. That is bhakti. So therefore, he had no personal ambition. And what was the result of this? The result was Krishna gave him everything. Krishna gave him everything. So we heard about the wonderful glory of Maharaj Yudhishthira's kingdom in a previous chapter earlier, right? But we will hear a little bit more again over here, very short, just one verse to summarize it. News even reached the celestial planets, the three Divam, Bur, Bhuvaha, and Swargaloka, all the planetary systems started hearing about the news about Maharaj Yudhishthira's kingdom, about his opulences. What did they hear? They heard about his amazing worldly possessions, which rivaled even that of the greatest of the demigods. His wonderful sacrifice to attain future destinations. So his future is super bright, not something which even the demigods were envying. His queen, Draupadi, right? How they were envying, how wonderful. I mean, in a nice way, envying in a nice way. They were amazed by the opulence of his sacrifice, his worldly possessions, his queen, his not only queens, his wonderful support, his brothers, stalwart brothers. You know, usually in Kali Yuga, brothers sometimes will fight, sometimes there will be envy, sometimes there will be all kinds of problems, sometimes they become enemies. But here, the Pandavas, although they shared, even in the greatest of challenge, when the Pandavas, the five brothers, had to share one wife, that is one of the greatest challenge, for men actually. So even in such a great challenge, they were all united perfectly. So and Krishna actually mentioned that. He told the Pandavas, one of the things I'm very pleased about with you is how you are all so united amongst yourself. So stalwart brothers, envy of the demigods. Indra doesn't have someone like this, right? Even Brahma doesn't have stalwart brothers like this. And they heard about his extensive land in the Bhuloka, his sovereignty over the earth, how everything in earth, from the land, the sky, the plants, the earth, the rivers, the water, the minerals, the animals, they were all abundantly producing just for the pleasure of the king. They didn't have to be forced. They didn't have to be mined. You don't have to mine. Gold was lying on the riverbeds. The jewels and the gems were popping out of the earth. The plants were oozing honey and all kinds of things. So everything was abundant. And they heard about his fame and etc. etc. So therefore, Prabhupada says there are different lokas or higher planets scattered all over the sky, both material and spiritual. A person can reach them by dint of his work in present life. So here Prabhupada digresses a little bit. He talks about another topic about how actually this is not the only place of existence. You know, modern days, people like to talk about aliens. Oh, are there such a thing as aliens? The answer is yes. The aliens are the people from the outside Bhuloka, like Swargaloka. So Indra, all these people are there. The Kinaras, the Chanaras, the Gandharvas, the Apsaras, these are all aliens coming from the places far away from Earth. So like that, then Prabhupada continues, no forceful entrance is allowed there. You cannot go to these higher planetary systems, right? Like the moon or the sun or the Mars or the planets and like that. Tiny material scientists and engineers who have discovered vehicles to travel over a few thousand miles in outer space will not be allowed entrance there, which is true. So actually, there's a lot of propaganda going on nowadays in the past 50 years about man going to planets. So actually, this is just propaganda. It's not true. Prabhupada clearly says that it's not possible for them to go to these places. And it's against the descriptions what was given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there is a deep propaganda going on. And there are actually a lot of evidences about this propaganda. If you search it, it's there in the internet. It's being covered up. So I will not go into all that. But the point is, these propagandas are one by one being proven correct by scripture. There are so many things. Scripture has existed for thousands of years. Modern civilization has only existed for the past few hundred years. And, current modern scientific civilization is only for the past 200 years. And that also in the past 50 years only, a lot of hoo-ha and jumping about is being done. And that also, there's a lot of problems with it. And many, many, many things are actually faked. So like Darwin's theory, lots of evidence about its faking. The virus theory, a lot of question mark is there. So many other things are there which are questionable, which will one day be revealed. And at that time, we will be able to see the truthfulness of, whereas the scriptures, until now, nothing has been proven wrong. Everything has been proven correct one by one by one. So Prabhupada says, one must qualify himself to enter into such happy planets by sacrifice and service. So this is the way to go to higher planetary systems. There's a book Prabhupada gives. He has written a book, Journey to Higher Planets. So please read that book. So Journey to Higher Planets. And over there, Prabhupada talks about how if we are interested in journeying to higher planets, we can do it. The way to do it is by preparing ourselves by qualification, by sacrifice, right? It's given in the scripture how one can do it. So anyway, going back to the topic, next verse, Sutta Goswami continues. O Dvijaha, O Brahmana, he's addressing Saunaka Rishi. Saunaka Rishi is, they're all Brahmanas. So Sutta Goswami is saying, O Brahmanas, Dvija means twice born. A Brahmana is called twice born because first birth is by the parents, seminal birth by the father and the mother. The second birth is the mother is Gayatri and the father is the spiritual master. So in this way, you get the sacred thread, and that's the second birth. So that's Brahmana. O Brahmana, O Dvija, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of heaven aspired for it. Now, that's really saying something. But because he was absorbed, so Krishna gave Maharaj Yudhishthira everything. But because Maharaj Yudhishthira was absorbed in Mukunda Manasaha, one who is God conscious, always thinking about Mukunda. Mukunda means Lord Krishna. Mukunda means giver of liberation. And another name for Krishna. Because he was always Mukunda Manasaha, absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him. Because remember what I said, his heart was full to bursting, full with Krishna Pada Anusevaya. So nothing could satisfy him. Shuditasya. So the explanation, the description of Shuditasya. Shuditasya means just like one who is hungry is never satisfied by anything else other than food. Now, if you are hungry, if somebody is hungry, if a child is hungry, let's say, we can see this very much in babies. When babies get hungry, they cry, they cry, they cry, they cry. And sometimes, we trying to, the food is not ready for the child, for the baby yet. Mother is not around or whatever. Then the person will try to cajole the child. Oh, kuchi, 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 and then does something to the child. And the child, he's not going to start smiling and laughing because he's hungry. So no matter what we do to the child, he is going to only cry. Nothing is going to satisfy him. So that is the way, that is the pure consciousness of one who is Mukunda Manasa. When his heart is full, nothing will satisfy him because he has tasted the higher taste. Everything else is drab and plain and tasteless and gray compared to the wonderful beauty of spiritual bliss. Right? Just like a fish, you can see a fish here. If a fish is taken out of water, right? You can give the fish money, you can give the fish food, you can give the fish entertainment, all kinds of things we can give the fish. But you can put in it an aircon, you can give it a nice drink, but the fish is not going to be interested. The fish is yearning for back to the water. So that is the actual position. So Maharaj Yudhishthira was one of the liberated souls, and therefore for him there was no pleasure in a vast kingdom, good wife, obedient brothers, happy subjects, and prosperous world. He was there in this material world only for the pleasure of the Lord, to serve the purpose of the Lord, to enact his role in the pastimes of the Lord. That is the one which gave him complete pleasure, simply being connected with the Lord and with the devotees of the Lord. So in this way, this is the high soul of Maharaj Yudhishthira Maharaj. Right? So these blessings automatically follow for a pure devotee. So when one comes to this point, right, then it doesn't matter. So, but still Krishna is so, he's so pleased with that devotee, because the devotee, the devotee has given to Krishna that which is most precious to him. What is most precious to a jiva? What is most precious to a living entity is his freedom. Freedom of choice is his choice. So he has given that choice to serve Krishna willingly over anything else. So Krishna doesn't know how to pay back. In fact, he tells the gopis, I do not know how to pay back whatever that you are giving me. So you must be satisfied with whatever, you must be satisfied with simply devotional service itself. There is nothing in my power to give to you other than myself and devotional service. But still Krishna tries. Still Krishna tries to give and give and give to it as much. Right? So blessings automatically follow for a pure devotee. Automatically. So one doesn't have to ask. Krishna knows. Automatically he will look after. Automatically he will take care. Automatically he will do what's necessary for us. So we just have to have the faith, follow pure devotional service, and simply serve Krishna and surrender to him, whatever comes, right? So then Prabhupada continues. The whole material world is full of hungry living beings. The hunger is not for good food, shelter, or sense gratification. The hunger is for spiritual atmosphere. The pure relationship, even if in our lives, if we have everything, we have everything, we have money, we have wealth, we have facilities, we have power, we have glory, but if we have a broken relationship, none of these things will taste anything good, right? If we have a broken relationship, a broken heart, right, none of these things will help. And the nature of this material world is it can only give us a broken heart, because no relationship is eternal. One day it will break when the relationship breaks, right? And no relationship is free of disappointment. So these two fallacies are there in the material world. But in the spiritual world, everything is eternal and everything is ever increasing in bliss. And the perfect person to have a relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that is our real hunger. The hunger in our heart, the hunger is the hunger for that relationship, which can only be given in the spiritual atmosphere. So due to ignorance only, they think that the world is dissatisfied because there is not sufficient food, shelter, defense, and objects of sense gratification. So we are in ignorance. We don't realize, some of us don't even realize what actually will give us real happiness. So, in this way, we get carried away, we get illusioned, we get cheated by all these shiny, glittering things, which cannot really give us any lasting things. So this is therefore called illusion. Such hunger can be satisfied only when the living being is situated in immortality in the association of Lord Mukunda. So this is the relationship, immortal, eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. That will give us complete satisfaction. And not only complete, it will increase, keep on increasing. We cannot imagine. We can only know when we are there. So then the verse continues. Sutta Goswami speaks, Bhrigu Nandana, he's addressing Saunaka Rishi. Earlier he called him Dvija, Brahmana. So now he's calling Bhrigu Nandana because all the Brahmanas are the descendants of Bhrigu Muni. So Bhrigu Muni, so the son of Bhrigu basically means Brahmana. But he's actually he is the son of Saunaka Rishi is the direct son of Bhrigu as well. So Bhrigu Nandana, when Veera Parikshit, so the word Veeraha is used to describe Parikshit. When the child Parikshit was in the womb of his mother, and the word Veeraha is used. Why? Because even though he was just a fetus, unborn in the womb, he was suffering the terrible burning pain of the Brahma, the Brahmastra, Ashtra Tejasha. What Astra? The Brahmastra. What is Tejas? The effulgence, the glare. He was suffering from the terrible burn of the effulgence of the Brahmastra, which spoiled the womb of Uttara, his mother. But still he bore that pain with grit. He bore it. So because he bore that pain, he is called Veeraha, Veera Parikshit. So Prabhupada says the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being the great fighter by nature. So that is the nature of the child. He was going to be a great king, right? So this is his test, a test. And for this reason, he earned the word Veeraha. So devotees, even though they are pure devotees, they don't have to earn or they don't have to go through any of these things. But for the sake of the material people, right, the Lord allows these devotees to go through these various reasons, right? So these various conditions, so that they can be glorified sufficiently. If a devotee doesn't go through anything, how will the material people ever gain faith? How will the material people ever glorify any devotee? So for that sake, so because this child went through this pain, he is now glorified as Viraha. So a title is given to that child. So Veera Parikshit was in the womb of his mother and was suffering from the Astra Tejas, and he could observe Purusha coming to him. While this is happening, the terrible glare and the effulgence was heating up the womb. He could see a figure approaching him at great speed. And who is that figure? The Purusha. And we will hear the description of what Veera Parikshit saw in the womb. So before that, Prabhupada continues, death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb. And thus he wants to come out of it. So it is described that after 7 months, the child wakes up in the womb, he becomes conscious, and he realizes his terrible position of being completely trapped within this dark place, squeezed, and the room is only becoming smaller and smaller and smaller as he's growing and growing and growing. Now, do you know how terrifying that is? To be in a room where the walls are becoming closer and closer and closer, and you think there's no way out. So that's how it feels in the womb. So therefore, Janma is one of the miseries, right? Birth. So he feels this way, and sometimes, fortunately, prays to the Lord for such liberation. So if he is fortunate, not all childs are able to remember, but if it's a very special child, he is able to remember the Lord and he will pray. He will pray. So you'll see most babies, their hands come in a prayer-like position when they are in the womb, right? So it's a natural situation. Naturally, their hands come together like in a prayer form. So then there's a very nice verse that comes after this. So I will say this verse. Angushtamatram mamalam sfurat puratamaulinam apivya darshanam shyamam taditvashasham achyutam. So the verse continues. What he saw, this verse describes what Veera Parikshit saw in the womb. When the Purusha came, how did the Purusha look? Angushta matram amalam. The Lord was only the size of a thumb. Angushta matram. Matram means measurement. Angushta means thumb. The Lord was only the size of a thumb. So this is the size of Paramatma, right? Paramatma in the heart is the size of a thumb. Even though he was small, he was all transcendental. Amalam, he is pure. Amalam, beyond matter. And Sfurat Purata Maulinam. So Sfurat means blazing. Maulina means helmet, and Purata means gold. So he wore a golden helmet which was blazing, right? Like this. Apiya Darshanam Shyamam. He was blackish, dark in color, and very beautiful to look at. Tadit Vashasham Achyutam. The infallible Lord, Achyutam, he's called Achyutam because he will never fail in anything. Everything he does, he touches, he thinks is always a success, right? So the infallible, the Achyuta wore a dress of lightning yellow. Tadit is lightning, Vashasham is yellow. So very beautiful. So this is the description given of the Paramatma within the heart. And then the verse continues. Srimad Dirga Chaturbahum Tapta Kanchana Kundalam Shatajaksham Gadapanim. And then the verse continues, but let me just stop at this point first. So these are the further descriptions of the Lord. Srimad Dirga Chaturbahum. So he is enriched, Srimad, enriched by very prolonged 4 hands, Chaturbahum. Bahu means arms, Chatur means 4, and Dirga means prolonged, long, lengthy. So according to Vedic understanding, physiognomy, if one's arms are very long, it is very auspicious and is very beautiful to look at. So, very graceful. People who have long arms, they are very graceful, very beautiful to look at. So Krishna's arms are very long and four arms at that some more. And then another description, Tapta Kanchana Kundalam. So very beautiful golden earrings. Kundalam means earrings, and Tapta Kanchana, the earrings are just like molten gold. Gold, when we see gold, we know how gold looks like. But have we seen liquid gold? When gold is in liquid form, it's very, very hot, right? It's in liquid form. It's described that the color of gold is brilliant. So it's not like solid gold. Solid gold, it's a bit dullish. Of course, it's shiny, but when it's in liquid gold, it's brilliant. So the earrings the Lord were wearing is brilliant. So, this is another, Radharani's complexion is also Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, golden and Tapta Kanchana, like liquid gold. And then the third one, Kshataksham Gadapanim, describes his eyes. Aksham means eyes. What kind of eyes? Eyes with the redness of blood. Oh, now that's interesting. So his eyes were red like blood because the Lord was angry. The Lord was angry because his pure devotee is in danger. Just like Narsinghadev. When his pure devotee is in danger, the Lord becomes terribly angry, fearsomely angry, unbelievably angry. Even Lakshmi cannot recognize him already. This is my husband? Oh my God. This is extremely angry. This is the nature of the Supreme Lord when his pure devotees are threatened. So his eyes were like blood. And he had Gada upon him. He carried Gada with him, swinging the Gada like as if it's like club. So that we will hear in the next verse. Atmana sarvato disham paribhamamantam ulkabham brahmayantam gadam muhu. So here it's described the Lord, he loitered about with his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. So he was there and he was moving about the womb like, like a player about to, like a baseball player waiting for the ball to come. So he was loitering about with his club, circling him. The club was circling him like a shooting star. A brilliant, amazing weapon that he had. The club that he has is called Kaumodaki. Just like the chakra has a name, Sudarshana, and his club is also given a name, Kaumodaki. So in this way, it is encircling him, ready to defend his pure devotee. So it is said in the Brahma Samhita, that is a nice verse. Eko piya sarachaitam jagadanda kotim yachaktirashti jagadanda chayaya andaha andantarashta paramanu chayantarashtam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So here Krishna say, Lord Brahma's prayers. Brahma prays that in the Supreme Lord Govinda, by one of his plenary portion, as Mahavishnu enters into the universe, right? And after that, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu enters into each universe, and from there he expands himself into Shvetadip as Shirodakashayi Vishnu, and that one Shirodakashayi Vishnu is 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 uh, is represented everywhere as Paramatma. So in this way, distributes himself as Paramatma or the Super Soul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of the material elements. Thus, the Lord is all-pervading by his inconceivable potency, and thus he entered the womb of Uttara. So in this way, he came to Uttara's womb to protect Parikshit. Thus, the Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the Ashtra Tejaha, Swagadaya, with his own Gada, with his own Kaumodaki Gada, he vanquished the Astra Tejaha, the effulgence which is caused by the Brahmastra. So he vanquished it. Just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. So, in the morning there's lots of dew, but as soon as the sun comes up, all the dew just evaporates and disappears. So the Brahma Teja was very hot, but as soon as the Lord came, the heat of the Brahma Teja just disappeared, just like that. And he was observed by the child who thought about who he was. So all this was carefully being noted and observed by the child in the womb. Right? So, and that's how he got his name later when he was born. When he was born later, they found that, this child likes to scrutinize everything. Whatever he sees, whatever that comes to him, he will really examine, scrutinize. So scrutinize, another word for scrutinize is examine. So because he likes to examine everything he sees, he's given the name examiner. So the word examiner in Sanskrit means parikshit. In Malay we say papariksaan. It comes from the word pariksha. And the one who's examining is called parikshit. What is he examining for? Because this baby, the child, he saw this personality, this wonderful personality in the womb. And ever since he came out from the womb, he's looking, where is that personality? Where's that personality? And for the rest of his life, he kept searching for that personality. So that's why he was called Parikshit. So then, while thus being observed by the child, what happens? Thus being observed by the child, Amayatma. So when the child was watching this Purusha, this what you call Paramatma, who defeated this Brahmastra. After, when the child was watching this, what happened? Amayatma Bhagavan, he was looking at this Amayatma Bhagavan. So this Bhagavan is now named. This personality is named as Amayatma. Amayatma is another name for Paramatma. Ameya means all-pervading Atma. So who is the all-pervading Atma? The Paramatma, right? And Bhagavan. So this now is being named, that personality is being named, right? And he is given a quality. He is Dharma Gup. Dharma Gup means protector of Dharma, protector of righteousness. protector of religiosity, protector. So in his capacity, in this way, in this quality is being highlighted here because specifically for this purpose he revealed himself. Paramatma is always there, but he was invisible. But when this happened, he revealed himself to Parikshit and destroyed the Brahma Tejas. And he is also known as Vibhu, another quality of the Lord. He is supreme. He is all great. Why he is all great? Because he defeated the Brahma Tejas, which was undefeatable. Therefore, he is all great. And he gave protection to that person who couldn't be protected, right? He gave that protection. And he is known as Dasamashasya. Dasamashasya. Dasa means the 10. 10 directions. There are 10 directions. North, south, east, west, southeast, northeast, southwest, northwest, and all these other directions. There are 8. And then there's up and down. So altogether 10 directions. So he is unlimited in all 10 directions. Actually, the word here poetically says he's dressed in the 10 directions. He's dressed in the 10 directions means he's unlimited in all these 10 directions. That means space and time cannot bound him. So that is the quality of the Lord. And his name is given Hari. So this is that quality and name and of this personality who came. And this person, Hari, disappeared at once. After his work is done, Parikshit saw, and right after that, he disappeared. Just like how he disappeared to Narada Muni. The moment Narada Muni saw him, and then he spent the rest of his life chanting the holy names of the Lord. And after he died, he became Narada Muni. Right? We heard about that pastime earlier in a previous chapter. So another example, which is being repeated here for Parikshit Maharaj. But where did he go? Right? So Prabhupada says he was present there. He didn't go anywhere. And even after his disappearance, he was still there. He just disappeared, that's all. Although invisible to the eyes of the child. Because he's Paramatma. Paramatma is everywhere. Anyone who is surrendered soul unto the Supreme is righteous. Because earlier, his name was Dharma Gup, protector of Dharma, or protector of righteousness. So who is that righteousness? Anyone who is a surrendered soul. So Parikshit Maharaj was supposed to be a great personality. He's a great devotee coming, right? So the Lord directly protected him. Protector of therefore it's called Dharma Gup. The Lord is the indirect protector, but he's not only protecting the righteous people. Actually, he's protecting both righteous and unrighteous people. How is he protecting unrighteous people? The Lord is the indirect protector of the unrighteous people. He doesn't protect them directly. He uses his material energy to protect them. So he sends them to under the control of the material energy. So what does material energy do? Material energy rectifies him, corrects him. Just like, when somebody goes to prison, the purpose of prison is called correction house, isn't it? It's not just to punish. The purpose of punishment is so that they will rectify their mistakes and correct themselves, right? This is a correction facility. So the nature of this material world is such that it will correct us, rectify our sins. So that is the purpose of Maya, or that's the purpose of material energy. So actually the Lord is he's the protector of both the righteous as well as the unrighteous. The righteous he directly protects, the unrighteous he indirectly protects, but they are both protected. Thereupon, when all the good signs of the zodiac event gradually evolve. So now it's continuing. So what happens? When all the nakshatras, the constellation, the signs, the planets, all of them aligned gradually, what happens? Birth happened. The heir apparent of Pandu, who would be exactly like him in prowess, Pandur Eva Ojasa, he took birth. Who took birth? Parikshit Maharaj. So after this incident, Parikshit was saved, and when the constellations were proper, at the right time, Parikshit Maharaj was born. Right? So this is very nice. So this is how time works. nothing is random in time, right? Everything works in a proper way. It's just that we do not understand how it works. But there is, in the Vedas, there is something called Vedanga, or the limbs of the Vedas. And in these limbs of the Vedas, one of the things which is given in the limbs of the Vedas, that means to assist the Vedas, is astrology, astronomy and astrology. So uh, the knowledge of this astrology and astronomy is to help us to understand muhurta, positions of time and space, on what is auspicious and what is inauspicious. So this is all there. So a great personality is never born in an inauspicious time. He is always born at the right time. What to speak of the Lord? The Lord, when he appears, it is not even called auspicious. It is even greater than auspicious. It is a special name is given to that person, to that Lord, when he takes birth. He is called, when the Lord himself comes, it is called Jayanti. Jayanti is unique. It is only used for the in association with the Supreme Lord. It is not used for any other purpose. Only for, not for the devatas, not for normal ordinary things. It's only used for the Supreme Lord. That's why Krishna Jayanti, right? So this is a very unique combination of astrological properties of planets and nakshatra, which can never be seen. So that is very special. So Prabhupada comments, the law of nature is so subtle. Every part of our body is influenced by the respective stars, and a living being obtains his working body to fulfill his terms of imprisonment by the manipulation of such astronomical influence. So it's scientific. People will say, oh, astrology, all this is bogus. No. So Prabhupada has an answer to that. So he says, it's a great science, and misuse of a science does not make it useless. So that's the problem. It's being misused. People don't understand it correctly. And on top of that, there is misuse. So it's there, this understanding. It's not easy to understand, though. It is quite complex. And you need a lot of intelligence to actually understand this science. So, even scientifically is proven. We know that, for example, we know tide, the sea tide, the tide of the water, when there is full moon, the tide is high. And then when there's dark moon, also the tide is high. And then in between, the tide is low. And similarly, when the sun is in the middle, the tide is high. So look, just by sun and planet, it affects the tide. The water actually rises so many centimeters, even up to a meter probably sometimes, right? So much of difference can be made to a water body simply by the movement of the sun and the moon. So what is in our body? Scientists say that our body is 80% made up of water. So if our body is 80% made up of water, or was it 70%? I don't know, something, but mostly is made up of water. So if the tide can be affected by the sun and the moon, in so many subtle ways, the water in our body can also be affected by the planets and the stars. So it affects our hormones, it affects our mind, it affects our thinking, it affects our health, and it affects other living creatures, and it affects the earth, and it affects the atmosphere, the weather. So basically, our karma is controlled, indicated by the astrological science. We can read about our karma in this way. It's a great science. So then Yudhishthira Maharaj Sutta Goswami says, King Yudhishthira, who was put Pritamana with the birth, Pritamana means very satisfied. We say Triptiya Manam, Manan Tripti in Tamil. So in Sanskrit, Mana Pritta. So Prita means one who is satisfied, completely satisfied. What is he satisfied with? He's satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. And therefore, he had the purificatory process of Jatakam performed. And for that, he invited learned Brahmanas headed by Daumya and Kripa, who are reciting auspicious hymns. So, when somebody is born, when a child is born, there is purificatory ceremonies which are performed. So this is Jataka. Jataka means when one is born. So now today there's not much time, 9:30 already. So I will describe this and continue in the next session, right? So I'll just skip this part, all this part I'll skip and then move on to the end. Okay. So let us recite Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, are there any questions or anything you want to clarify? Sorry, it took up a bit of time. Wanted to finish. I thought I could finish. Just one or two more verses for today. Never mind.
Hi, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Karpura Mata.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it is really very interesting,
Okay.
and it's very good for me to to hear all these things. It's a very good satsang, and I hope that I would like to know the story of the curse. What is the story of the curse? I think you'll be sharing this in the next coming Thursday, right?
The story is a bit of a suspense. I'll keep it a bit later because that comes in chapter 16, 17, 18. So now we are in chapter 12. If you wait until chapter 16, 17, 18, then you can hear the story.
That is very long way to go, right?
Yeah, but I want to keep the suspense. But I can tell you briefly, I mean, next week, briefly, I can tell you. Basically, the story is he was cursed to die, and then the subtleties of why and everything, it'll be very nicely described by the chapter 16, 17, 18. Let's follow according to the yeah.
Okay. I'm also just thinking how come a Brahmana can actually, a small boy can actually curse and the curse can take place. So that means the Brahmana is also very powerful, right?
So in those days, remember, this is not Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, the Brahmanas have lost their potency. But this is in Dwapara Yuga. In Dwapara, previous age, the potency of the Brahmanas was still pure. It was said that nowadays people want to do yagya, they have to take a matchstick and then put the match on the fire. But the Brahmanas those days, simply by mantra, the fire will light up automatically. So this was happening those days. So even the child, because they are trained right from young, they are trained with mantras to pronounce properly with the right intonation. And the atmosphere of the yuga was such, it was surcharged in that way. So even when they were children, they were trained, by saying a mantra, they can light the fire. By saying this, they can do that. And on top of that, the Brahmanas, they follow austerity. They have a certain austerity. They follow these principles very strictly. And when we follow spiritual austerities and principles, we actually develop tejas, brilliance or effulgence within ourselves. That's why you see there are some spiritual people like Prabhupada. In fact, there was one Western person, he saw Prabhupada from a distance. This was in 1960. And he could only remember that he saw someone shining walking by, 60-something-year-old person. And he remembered telling this to another person next to him. And later on, this person, after many years have passed, when Prabhupada became famous, then he came to the society and he told, this is what happened, and I saw this person, and he was shining. So they have austerity, they have this effulgence in them. So that effulgence is like a power, and this power is there for anybody who does austerity. That's why, there are even people, ladies also, if they are very chaste wives, and even if something goes wrong, if they curse, the curse becomes powerful, so people don't want to get the curse of chaste mothers or ladies. So these are all called tejas, certain spiritual potency which builds in that person, because the person has been following austerities and spiritual practices. So that even at that time, the child had that potency. So he could curse. Of course, he was not very powerful. He was just a child. So he didn't have that much of potency. But out of childishness, he made that curse. So as I said, Parikshit Maharaj could have countered that curse easily. But he understood that this is all the work, the act of the Lord. So he continued with that.
Meaning that you're saying those who are taking penance, those who
Mm,
are fasting, are very
mm,
strongly spiritually inclined.
mm.
So with this kind of personality, let's say if this person what I call they curse, it will take place. This is what you meant, right?
Yes, yes. There is, but when they curse, they lose their tejas. So that's the problem. So Brahmanas, they try not to curse, but sometimes when it happens, they actually do it. But when that's another thing. When even the devatas also, when they do something wrong, they lose their spiritual potency. So then they need to again go back and do austerities. So that's the problem.
I would like to share something. I
Mm,
remembered when I went to, I was actually on my spiritual path when I went to India. So when I was doing some pujas there, I remembered one of the person was saying to me that, oh, in India there's one. I mean, they have this practice, the what do you call, the priests, right? They like to ask for money. Okay, I mean, I do understand why, because the country is as such. Okay, so one of the person was telling me, Amma, if the priest ask you any cash, do not decline, do give whatever they ask for. So since then, it happens. It actually took place many years ago, but it happens even in Malaysia. When I go to temple and all those things, I will give abundantly, because I that will make the priest happy. Because the reason is, when they're uttering mantras for us, when they're doing arjana and all those things, we don't want them to think otherwise, you see. So that is very, very important. So I learned this, um because the priests they went through courses, they are actually brahmanas, and this is so important. So whatever they ask, I do give the cash. So I think this is also something very important, I guess so. Mhm.
mm. Yeah, it's there in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17. Krishna says that any charity that one offers, one should offer it with faith. When one does a samskara, when one does a particular upachara, it's considered to be in the mode of goodness if one gives due remuneration to the priest. If one doesn't give charity to the priest, then it's considered mode of ignorance. So yes, when we engage priests to do anything for us, we should give. But at the same time, we should be careful also, because there are a lot of cheaters out there, and a lot of them do take advantage of people, especially in India. So rather than not give, sometimes I would suggest just give a little. You may not, if you think that the priest may be a bit funny and they are not really utilizing it properly, rather than to not give, you can give some smaller amount, and at least uh, say mantra, say Hare Krishna mantra to them or something like that. So yeah, you're right, Mataji. It's always better to give, but we should use our discrimination so that we give in the right way. Because if we give to a so-called priest, and the priest is someone who is smoking cigarette, or the priest, in front he does everything, but in the back he's drinking alcohol and all that. So of course we don't know that sometimes, but if you do suspect, then just give what smaller amount instead of rather not giving at all. It's a good
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the temple when we are doing arjana and all those things.
Yes,
I think
yes.
I'm kind
Yeah, but it's best to give to those who are fully dedicated to their, when we know, like that's why when we have sannyasis, Srila Prabhupada's followers, we know their lives, we know what they have done, we know they have dedicated their lives. So when we give to these people freely, it becomes very powerful, uh, because they are not going to misuse that money, and they are not even going to use it so much on their own. They use it for the purpose of Krishna. So it's sort of like we are purifying our hard-earned money by giving it to these people for the use of Krishna. So yes, that is the best way to give charity. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. Right? Anybody else like to say anything? Nothing else? Okay. Right. So have a good evening. Thank you very much for your time. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.